Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain, and welcome back to Torment Tides of Numenera. Now, last time we went through this door over here and got horribly killed by the Sorrow, but we've got these Merecasters that still need messing around with. So we've got a frictionless Merecaster, we've got an Astronomical Merecaster, we've got the Azure Steel Merecaster, and we've got the Kaleidoscopic Merecaster. Now, I can't remember if we've done any of these already, but if we have, then we'll see. But I did say last episode that we would go and take a look at these Merecasters before we went and took a look at the other door or tried to progress, because maybe these are the key to then further progressing more easily. So let's use the Kaleidoscopic one first. Let's enter. I'm not sure if I'm going to do one Merecaster per thing or if I'm going to do all of them together. We'll have to see how we go. But indigo waves rise in the wake of the huge marteling whale, which is this thing, which has a city or town on its back, bearing down on the Sagus cliffs. Its flank blocks out the sun. Its shadow sweeps over your meagre doe, which is a small boat, and a whole swathe of sea. From high up on the beast's back, a lookout leans down. "Plague!" he cries, in a voice that seems too faint, even considering the distance. His warning is unnecessary. The yellow jack flag flapping from the mast can be seen all the way from the city. As the lookout stares directly at your doe, he cocks his head quizzically and rubs his eyes, plainly confused to see no one in the boat. The light bender on your belt does its work well, while its charge lasts. After a moment, the man wanders off. Snug around your neck, a steel collar trembles, and a voice whispers in your head. "Hurry, our seaward batteries can turn the whale into mist if they must, but better to save our fire for a darker day." After a moment, the collar buzzes again, and the voice adds, "Eliminating contagion is doctor's work, and no doctor would use a saw when a scalpel will do. Go now, cut what you must, and make sure that this sickness does not reach our city." Finally, the voice says, "And don't worry, your body can't fall prey to their disease." The collar goes still. The whale's leathery side looms above you like living cliff. Somewhere up there are the men and women carrying death toward your home. Gather any gear in the dough. The tools of your trade are housed in a locker beneath the thwart. Hooked climbing claws, your wind-sliced blade, and a concussive crystal pulsing with explosive power. You quickly secure them, claws on your hands, sword at your side, crystal on your belt. Remaining in the locker is a small waterproof ledger, which is better left there. There is also a harpoon of azure steel, sunk deep into the whale's flesh and tied to the dough by a sturdy cable. It would be hard to pull free, and in any case it will keep your boat tied to the beast. Okay, let's climb our way up then. You sink the climbing claws into the whale's tough hide and, leaving a bloody trail behind you, quickly climb your way up. As you ascend, the steady lapping of waves fades and the wind grows, but there come no sounds of the living or dying village built upon the marteling's back. Finally, you crest the whale's flank and pull yourself over the top. Silence, like a miasma, hangs over the empty driftwood shacks. Bits of bone, sheets of synth, crude abandoned tools, these are the only signs that people once thrived in this unusual home. The lookout has left no tracks, and in the moments you spend scanning the narrow, trash-strewn street, no one else emerges. Beyond this bleak emptiness, two things rise. Nearby, a kind of pavilion or howdah building atop the whale's head, so that's this up here, and in the distance a huge stone stern castle at the whale's rear. A beam of light streams from the stern castle to the howdah, encasing the latter in an iridescent bubble, some sort of shield by the look of it. There is nothing else of note. So that's the Stern Castle, and then that's the Howdah, I guess. Let's climb up to get a better vantage point. You clamber atop a rickety roof, mindful to spread your weight evenly across the pockmarked synth. Even still, it flexes ominously beneath you. From on high, most of what you see is the same, a warren of winding, empty streets, flanked by filthy hovels, all silent and lifeless. But then a flicker of motion catches your eye. Half hidden behind a mound of garbage, a small crowd seems to have encircled a woman. You cannot make out exactly what transpires, but you can plot a path through the village to reach the crowd, or to avoid it en route to the Stern Castle. I think it's there for us to go and stick our nose into, so let's go take a look. After a sharp turn, you slip into a square that is half smothered by the stench of what seems a heap of garbage. Without a shudder, you see it is in fact a mound of rotting bodies. Cornered between the corpse pile and a rusting sheet metal shanty, a woman guards a few canned goods against a crowd of lean-faced men and women. Their gestures might seem mere speechless beseeching, were it not for the woman's torn flesh and one man's bloody nails. She hoarsely warns them off, vowing to die fighting, and die she surely will, though these half-starved foes would pose no threat to a trained warrior like you. Though you are nearly close enough to touch them, the Lightbender hides you from sight. You cannot let them distract you from your mission. Toss the Grenades are fun. The blast blinds, deafens, destroys. When your senses return, nothing remains of the mute men and women but flesh and blood splattered on the ground. Their victim, too, is gone, having fled in the confusion. One of the hovels is now rubble. The explosion opened a way straight to the Stern Castle, where a far larger mob has gathered. They are unmoved by the violence you've wrought, and silently pound upon the gates with crude tools or just their fists. More file in behind you, forcing you forward for closing retreat. The Lightbender's power peters out, and as you shimmer into view, some of the mob glance your way. You're in no immediate danger, but fighting this many would be no mean feat. Let's climb the wall. As the mob spots you ascending, they fall upon you with senseless desperation. Sharp-nailed hands clutch at your limbs, cudgels batter your body. But your climbing claws have a good grip, and your arms and legs are strong. Stronger than most anyone's, and stronger than those of these sick folk by a wide measure. Eventually, you work your way out of their reach, safe if not unscathed. Above you shimmers the beam of energy fueling the Howdah's distant force field. Below you, faces contort in voiceless rage. You give both sights but a quickest glance before swinging your way through an open window. You land deftly in a great hall. The Stern Castle's defenders are a few dozen men and women armed with little more than spears and marlin spikes. One of them has a few healing ciphers, another wears a richly dyed robe adorned in glittergar scales. No doubt she is their leader. The hall holds little else of interest save a large Numenera that streams light out through a window, feeding the force field at the whale's head. The defender's leader addresses you, her voice oddly accented. "Welcome to Folkhaven, emissary," she says gently. "I speak for the folk. We must dock in your city. We are in desperate need of healing. As you saw when you faced the Unspeakables, we beg your aid in these dark days." "Who are you?" "We are the folk, whalefarers and truth-tellers, survivors of a land that sank below the sea for our sins. We have plied the waves for 7 generations, kept above by whale singers' skill. never growing beyond the bounds of this haven, small enough for each to know all, for all to know their places, from speaker to gleaner, from watcher to teacher. Now we are few, perhaps only some sinned in the old selfish way and brought the gods' wrath upon us again, but we shall endure. Who are these Unspeakables? 3 of our folk hauled in a net that held a foul catch, a thing partwise fish and partwise woman, but long and bald and clawed, big with child, and clutching in its grip a thing that glowed, some sea cipher. So I have heard it said. See, now that I can't remember what they're called, but they're like big, hideous mermaids that tend to eat people, I think. They flung the foul thing back, but not before it seemed to touch their minds. Those 3 were the first to fall silent. The plague spread up Fisher's Lane, then through the cannery, stealing voices as it went. Bereft of their words, the sick are cut off from the bonds that hold us folk together. Lost and alone, they go mad and turn unspeakable, till the quiet death takes them. Why don't they just communicate by writing? Of course, a stranger cannot know our ways or wisdom. A spoken lie lasts but a breath, but those who hear it can answer with the truth. But a written lie lingers long past the lives of those who know it to be false, enduring until it can lead an entire race astray. So spoke the first of the folk who survived the sinking, and we have lived since by their words, free from the perils of pen and ink. I mean, I suppose it's an odd thing. I want to help your people, but you must turn away from Sega's cliffs. You have spoken, and I have heard, but I again implore you and your far-famed city to aid us in our hour of need. The lives of the folk and the fate of the haven turn upon your word. There's 100,000 people in Sega's cliffs. They cannot be put in harm's way for the sake of a tiny village. I must think of both my city and your village. I will do what I can to help you short of endangering my own people. If I could let you dock and save your people, I would, but it's not my word. The decision has already been made. I do not fault those who speak for your city. We have done the same here to safeguard the uninfected within these walls, but we cannot change course from here. The whale singer guides the whale from upon its head, and he must be shielded against plague. Were he to lose his voice, there would be no song to steer us. But there is a way. You see, a gift has come to us, a means by which the healer can concoct an inoculation against the quiet death. It comes at a price. Only your city will make us pay. The gift, the only one to fall sick and silent yet fend off madness. From the fluid in his spine, the healers will decant a guard against the death. Not a cure, and enough for at most 20 inoculations. From 20, the folk can grow again, as we did after the sinking. The gift will not refuse or cry out. He will endure his death in silence. We will lower the shield, and you will bring an inoculation to the whale singer. The whale will turn, and we will survive. What if the procedure fails? You will have killed the only person who might be immune to it. We are not fools, stranger, and long have we pondered our few choices. Even if the gift survives, the folk shall die. For he cannot speak the word and keep our ways alive. And the healer knows his craft and his tools. He has said this will not fail, and I speak his words again with confidence. I don't need healing, so I don't know why it's telling me that I can ask for that. fair enough. It's a thing that they're doing for their people. I'm just here to seemingly stop the whale. She spoke the truth, and when the boy is broken upon the churchman's bench, when ciphers bore into his back, he makes not a noise. From his life 23 will be saved, each with an amber promise swirling in a strong glass vial. The healer hands one to you, along with a cipher that will inject it into the whale singer. The speaker gives you a flag, half yellow, half blue. Wave it when you reach the shield. We will open a way, and the singer will know you for a friend. With that, the folk speak a word of blessing and lead you to a tunnel dug through the whale flesh. That will give you a clear start. Your path will not be easy. The village is overrun, but it is the only way. Make haste. The whale has entered the bay. As you weave through the narrow paths and alleys, faint sounds stir in the silence. Shuffle of footsteps, the huffing of heavy breathing, or heavy breaths. With a watchful eye and quiet tread, you advance, keeping out of sight as best you can. Soon they are before you, 6 or 7 unspeakables, men and women both, making their starving, reaving way through the village and unknowingly barring your advance. You will not here sneak past them. The same hovels that make a maze of the folk haven provide endless cover for the adept. Slipping through doors, slinking through alleys, and leaping from roof to roof, you evade the unspeakables and make your way at last to the howdah. You reach the top of the whale's head and stand before the shimmering force field that shields the howdah. A wave of the blue and yellow flag brings it down. Within the pavilion stands a stocky man, barrel-chested and ruddy, the whale singer. He seems pleasantly surprised to see you. Behind him, wide-mouthed tubes rise up from the whale's hide, and past them is the flat expanse of the whale's brow. Not so far beyond are the cliffs, the cannons, and the city. The whale singer's voice booms when he speaks, his words accented like the speaker's. I do not know you, stranger, but you have braved the unspeakables and come bearing the speaker's blessing. I await your words. Give him the inoculation. You quickly explain that the healer has given you, and what the healer has given you, and hand the inoculation to the whale singer. He presses the needle through his skin, blending the serum with his blood. There is no change, or wonderment worked by the injection, no esoteric lies behind this treatment, merely a child's life. All the same, the whale singer nods and thanks you. You have safeguarded my song, and thus the haven. Tell him he must turn the whale before it is destroyed. With a gesture to the cannons bristling on the not-so-distant cliffs, you warn the singer of what will come if the whale is not turned. Trusting the speaker's flag and the clear truth of your words, he gives a quick nod and turns the tubes rising from the whale's flesh. It is an uncanny song he sings, inhuman and at the same time heart-achingly intimate. At once the whale begins to turn, heaving its bulk away from the city and back to the open seas, and then the song ends, and the whale singer takes a long swig from a flask to chain to his belt. It is done. Seconds later, the collar around your neck flickers and a voice whispers to you alone, do not let it turn back. I trust him. You race down the whale's head and leap into your dough. With a swift splash, you cut the harpoon loose. Moments later, the whale is already dwindling into the distance. Whatever fate awaits the folk and unspeakables, it will be resolved at sea, far from the city you were sent to protect. As you slip from its shadows, the indigo waves turn azure. Your collar trembles and the voice returns. You should have cut deeper, then silence. The wind bears you back toward home. You do not bother to watch the vanishing whale with a dying village on its back, for ahead of you grows a great city of Saga's cliffs, its buildings, then its people coming slowly into view. They are safe for now. Okay, well that was an interesting little one there. So that was that done. Did we do this one? I can't remember. How long have we been going? We're going 20 minutes. I think we could do one more. Let's do this one. Because this one's definitely one of the ones that we got more recently. So, the Astronomical One. Blue. Once you had 24 words for it, for all its hues and shades, metaphors to glaives, capes, and courtesans' eyes. Now the sky is just blue. The ground is stone. The man before you, fat. Now all is vague and drab, like... The Memorialist sees you've stopped, and he halts. As well. Let's have a rest then, he says, passing you a bottle of fortified water as he catches his breath. You knew a word for that too. This drink they brew in the Valley of the Dead Heroes. Valley of Dead Heroes. Gone. We aren't far from his cenotaph. The fat man wipes his brow. Deep in your pocket, your hand feels for a round tin that holds the worms. Your fingers clutch it, and as they do, they brush a piece of paper. Are you his shadow? The Memorialist asks abruptly. Calagat Anvor, I mean. The one you came to see? Without waiting for a response, he barrels onward. We thought he'd cast his shadow among his own kind. We reasoned that with the Tabat gone, his line was lost forever. He stops and flushes more deeply, then hastily with a sign adds, but shadows fall where they will, as they will. Kalgat, Anvor, Tabat, shadows, they flit around the edges of your mind, escaping your grasp, but the worms, they are well within reach. Shall we continue, pilgrim? The Memorialist asks, to break the silence. One more short hike will do it. Your body is ready, your mind is not. Examine the piece of paper in your pocket. You slip the crisp, neatly folded sheet from your pocket and carefully open it. I will want the worms, but I will be strong. I will wonder what I have lost, but they will only rob me further. I will endure. I will build the tower of my intellect anew. Kalagat Anvor will furnish the material. The mind link, not the worms, will be my tool. The mind link. A dead-eyed trader from Haref sold it for the last of your once great heap of prizes and bounties. Now it's slung from your belt, a hideous mask with a synth tube hanging from it. Like some Sathoshi tentacle. The Memorialist regards you skeptically, as if he expects you to be the butt of a joke. As he looks in your eyes, however, he softens. We live in a world of darkness, pilgrim, and each of us is just a shadow of one of the great heroes buried here in this valley. But there's a light that shines behind the world. To know it, we shadows must measure ourselves against the heroes who cast us, and thus learn the light that lives beyond. He takes a swig from the canteen. I thought you set out on this pilgrimage to visit the tomb of Kalagat Anvor because you were his shadow, that you wanted to stand before him and find enlightenment. Am I wrong? Are you his shadow or not? Yes, I am his shadow. It's a rare honour to join shadow and hero, and a joy for those of us who shepherd pilgrims through the valley. Just over that rise is the monument. As for his tomb, you said that the cenotaph would lead the way. I can't see how, but for a famous puzzle breaker of Saga's Cliffs, I'm sure it will be simple. Your mind might still be clouded, but at least now the form of things has become clearer. Let's go. As you follow the Memorialist up the crumbling path, he carries on about a time when all roads in the valley were as well paved as the streets of Saga's Cliffs. Then, reaching the hill crest, he falls into reverential silence. When you catch up, you see the sight that awed him even for the 1000th time, a clutch of exquisite monuments ranging from vast to miniature, from abstract to eerily lifelike. The Memorialist points to one of them, a many-sided slab of black stone, and gestures for you to follow. This must be the cenotaph of Calagat Anvor, Tabat General and would-be world conqueror. Up close, the cenotaph is not so remarkable. Its faces are adorned with gruesome, stylized reliefs depicting the Tabat and their Dragalith mounts, trampling the corpses of their foes. Neat geometric glyphs encircle the panels. Like the images themselves, these are embossed rather than engraved. The Memorialist clears his throat. Of course, Calagat Anvor isn't here. Like the other heroes, his body is in one of the cells in the catacombs beneath us. This is its own sort of shadow. All memorials are. As your guide mumbles something about the difference between expression, impression, and reality, your attention returns to the cenotaph itself. Examine the images. No doubt some historian could tell the tale behind each panel, what doomed race the Tabat annihilated here, what grand battle was waged there. But to you, they're just an ugly blur that tugs at shameful memories without ever quite dragging them to the surface. This is not the knowledge you came for. On one side of the cenotaph there's something else, an obscene picture, crudely etched rather than raised, its edges scorched black. The Memorialist clears his throat awkwardly. A graffito from just after the Tabat were beaten, carved with a plasma torch by a bitter nano. He coughs again. The visual pun on Black 3 must be obvious. Sadly, we can't possibly fix the damage. Study the glyphs. What seemed at first individual glyphs are far more complex. Smaller symbols assembled into larger patterns, linked into chains, twined and twisted into knots, never a tangle or ramble. It's a more mathematical or scientific notation than language. Running your fingers across the glyphs, you see that they shine briefly under your touch, then fade. Perhaps there is a formula here to be solved, a structure, a higher, hidden order to be found. Perhaps here you could catch glimmers of the Tabat's military mastery. But the sieve of your mind holds nothing, and any secrets slip right through. As you struggle to decipher the symbol, the Memorialist hurries over. This one means war, he says, illuminating a cluster repeated endlessly on the cenotaph. This one, death. He picks out others and shows how the ideogram soldier weaves into warband, which can in turn mesh into column or army. Excitement grows in his voice as he leads you to another panel and shows you the unique markings that compose the pattern for Underspine, a high council, we think, or god. He notes what seems to be a structure to the writing, a pattern within the pattern. Could it be a puzzle to open the way to Calagat Anvor? He asks expectantly. You have no answer for his hopes. Study the basin. Carved into the cenotaph's plinth is a wide, shallow bowl, perfectly smooth, perfectly ovoid, and its centre is a small drain that runs into the monument. Around its rim is a geometric pattern, simply and composed of a single recurrent shape. You recognise the symbol, blood. Of course, it could be anything. It could be nothing else. Your guide keeps back from the basin as you examine it and shares no thoughts. Spill some of my blood into the basin. Beneath your guide's worried gaze, you nick your wrist and drizzle some blood into the bowl. Nothing comes of it. Whatever flows through your veins will not slake the stone's thirst. Okay. Try to find the correct sequence. You trick yourself into thinking you can crack whatever code the stone holds, but neither logic nor luck makes any headway. The glyphs shine and fade, but nothing happens. Given the endless combination, not even the persistence you had of old could break through this lock. See, now, we could go into the tin, stick a worm in us, and so on, but that would also possibly make things worse overall. So I'm going to sacrifice the Memorialist. Perhaps your guide underestimates the strength still coiled in your sinews. Perhaps he imagines your body has gone soft as your mind. Or maybe His faith gives him no cause to fear leaving this world of shadows. Whatever the case, he hardly seems to flinch as you swing a jagged rock towards his head. The sound is more a thud than a crack, but any fool could see his skull is smashed. You drag his body to the basin and saw at his neck until the blood begins to run, filling the bowl faster than its narrow drain can empty. You step back and watch the glyphs glow bright blue, casting their light a kind of shimmering portal in the air. Through it you see hints of a room. Step through. You step towards the wavering energy field and stare at the blue-tinged tomb beyond. The blood price has been paid and Caliga Anvor rests within. Tarrying no longer, you plunge through. The tomb's walls are bare stone, as is its floor. In fact, the room is empty except for the sarcophagus that sits at its centre, a crystalline Numenera that hums with ancient indefatigable energy. Bathed in the portal's light, the room feels almost underwater, a sensation heightened by the air's unnatural weight. Study the sarcophagus. The sarcophagus is divided into 3 parts: a wide bier, an elongated pentagonal coffin, and a curved lens-like lid. The bier is decorated with familiar glyphs. You recognize war and death and purity among them. But these designs hold little interest. They are just catchwords, and they will teach you nothing of the Tabat genius. The coffin, for its part, is a single hunk of milky aquamarine. Its lid is less opaque, and through it you can see the corpse's silhouette. Most importantly, you notice a simple locking mechanism holding the two together. Opening the sarcophagus would be straightforward. Okay, so we open it up. A few twists of the coffin's cylindrical locks and the lid rises up with a hiss of icy age old air. As the mists clear, you see at last the face of Caliga Anvor. You feel nothing at the sight of him, never having known the terror of his triumvirate. His inhuman features are slightly mummified, but well preserved. His ebon tabard is faded with time that even the sarcophagus could not keep at bay. But it is his head that matters, not his clothes. His head and its brain, and the insight sheathed within. An edge keen enough to cut through the tangle of your failures. Use the mind link. Once you slip the helmet over your face, you can see and can barely breathe. You can't see and can barely breathe. Trapped in the mask's damp darkness, you fumble for the socket at the base of the corpse's skull. At last you find it, and still struggling, you try to bring the conduit tube into contact. Suddenly the darkness explodes with light, the nebulous patchwork glow of your own mind, and beyond it the glorious mandala formed by the thoughts of Caliga Anvor. A mote emerges from the pattern, and a confused voice whispers, "You are not the underspine." Almost instantly, the geometry of his mind transforms into a star fortress, from whose bastions dagger-like shapes stream forth. "You will not take my thoughts," the Tabat voice rumbles as his fleet soars towards you. There's no time to try and reason with him, if it would ever be possible. Mount your own attack, fend him off. You came here to fill vast gaps in your mind. Yeah, let's do it. The vanguard of the general's mind pierces into your own and sweeps across it, surveying the landscape and its defenders before withdrawing to the neutral darkness between you. You can see the Tabat's disgust in the shape and colour of his thoughts. The texture of the general's mind ripples as he arranges his thoughts, absorbs what his scouts have scraped from your mind. At last, like a messenger, a sphere splits off from the pattern and floats before you. Pilgrim. The word is spat out. I have seen the secrets you keep from yourself, the endless battle you meant to end, the red wreckage your solution left behind. I am unmoved. I killed more, lost more, and fell farther without surrendering the truth. The sphere shimmers and flattens into a kind of mirror. You have come because you would prove yourself again through me, by me, but I am not your underspine. What is the underspine? The guardian of the Tabat soul. His mind darkens and storms. To use your words befouls the meaning of my thoughts. It is obscene that you call this tongue truth. The underspine is a filter through which our minds flow, cleansing us of distraction, subversion, novelty, and doubt. You cannot comprehend. What did you see in me? Fear, vanity, weakness, deceit. It is your duty to know yourself and to be yourself. A silver sliver of thought shoots out from his mind and stabs into your own. It is an image, a battlefield strewn with countless corpses and shattered war machines. A regal woman stands beside you, rigid with rage. Puzzle breaker indeed, she sneers. The image, be it a memory or Tabat deception, fades away and Caliga Anvor offers no more. Study his mind. Okay, so he's got a nice mind. I want you to fill the emptiness in my mind. Better to be dead and gone than housed in such corruption. I want to learn of Tabat warfare. The weak-willed and degenerate always dream that the great prevail by tricks or cheats or chance. His thoughts array themselves in interlinked chains of blue and black. But war disabuses tricksters of their vanity. Failure falls upon those proved false by battle, and victory is a stamp of truth. We did not master deceit or even war. We mastered our own authentic selves. We triumphed by philosophy, not strategy. Tell me more about your philosophy. In all systems, the variable is subordinate to the constant. The measure of things must be fixed. You do not comprehend. When one stands at the utmost peak of the highest mountain, an advance is no better than a retreat. All change is decline. To not fall, one must say there is no more ascent. Here I stay. Many have so spoken, but the Tabat alone spoke truly, resisting the vanity of progress. Your kind have been wiped out. I see. At least they are safe from the corruption of change. To be frozen forever in the cold death is better fate than the seamy, teeming welter of your city. Join me. Please? No? Should we attack? I think we're going to attack. Death has not dulled the Tabat's weapons or his will, but the mind is more than a mere battlefield, and riddled and rotten as yours may be, it is not yet bereft of all of its old gifts. You confound Anvor's defences with a flurry of bright weavings, then stabbing your lines of thought deep into the perfect geometry of his mind. In the end, that is all it takes. His thoughts destroy themselves, unravelling even as they seek to mend the breaches you have cut. Order turns to chaos, and the great light of Caliga Anvor to a mere shadow. In this route, you rip whatever wisdom you want from his supine mind. Then, as he fades, you slip free of the mind link, and moments later, of the Tabat's tomb. The sky outside is still blue, blue and vast and unbound. It needs no words to hem it in. Like the pilgrimage beneath, it is fertile in its emptiness, not barren. With empty pockets and a yearning mind, you return to the journey that is not only unfinished, but barely begun.
I'm ready to learn something new.
Okay. So we've done those two guys, and I think what I'm going to have to do is leave it there, because we've got another two, and they seem to be about 20 odd minutes each. So what we'll do is we'll save that right there. And otherwise, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Take care. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you liked this video, found it entertaining, then please drop us a like, share this video, and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the video tomorrow. Take care.